Hello, everyone, and welcome to task 4.1. This is our first task for Unit 4 and also the last unit in our course. This is quite the interesting task I always find, specifically for the topic classroom talking time. And here we're going to be observing a few things that, well, it's no rocket science, really. We're going to focus on talking time, TTT and STT. This refers to teacher talking time and student talking time. So, again, there really is no complexity here. There really is no great depth to this topic. But what's most interesting here is to observe and identify that this, in fact, our voice as a teacher in the classroom and also the voice of our students, that is, in fact, a tool. It's a means to an ends. For me, it's a means to an ends of illustrating and guiding the students in the role of the teacher. And for students, it's a means to the ends of learning and developing the language. So if we identify its value, then we can actually start using it as a tool. This is curious because we normally don't see it as a tool. It's just something that we do. It's part of our job to use our voice, to illustrate something on the board and then talk about it, to make questions. And that's about it, right? You have a lesson plan, but that's it. But here, what we're trying to get at is how can we be intentional? How can we be strategic in how we use our voice as a teacher? And in turn, how can we elicit the voice of the students as part of the learning process? Really, that is what this topic is about. So, obviously, the more students talk, the better, the more they're going to learn. Yes and no, because they could just be rambling on and not really getting anywhere, or they're not aware of it. So also, it has to be strategic, it has to be intentional, it has to be purpose driven for that to actually be a sort of formal learning development. So here, you have to also identify, well, when is teacher talking time beneficial and why is it beneficial? So sometimes what happens is we go to extremes. We'll say, well, if it's more important for students to talk, then I'm going to talk less. Say you have a class of 60 minutes, and normally you talk 40 minutes and students talk 15 minutes because there's always going to be pauses as well, then the silence. So you say, okay, so I'll talk 10 minutes and I'll have everybody else talk the rest of the time. Well, yeah, but maybe they need you to talk. So you have to identify when your voice is actually needed, when your voice is being strategic in how you're presenting a topic, how you're being efficient about presenting that topic, how you're developing that topic, and how you're guiding your students. So you're going to need your voice, but you have to be intentional and specific and strategic. And that is where these sort of questions come in. Okay, when is this beneficial and why is this beneficial? So those are some of the things that we'll be addressing here, and I'll have you work on that and reflect on that. And as part of that, well, we'll have our learning objective here, which mainly here you're going to start analyzing this, your voice, how you're using your voice, to what degree and to what extent and to what purpose you're using your voice, and in turn, the voice of your students, how you're eliciting that voice, that interaction, that interplay that they need to have between themselves and also with you to develop their learning experience and their language. So, to analyze teacher talking time in language classes, to understand its role. So, what is your role, not just as a teacher, but also your voice as a teacher? What its role as a tool to elicit uh, learning in adult learners, and to recognize how how teacher talking time, this is your time to talk within the class. Say again, let's do the example of 60 minutes, how to manage can be managed to promote active learning. So there's a reason, so you do need to speak, but it needs to be balanced. It needs to be planned out. You can do this from your lesson plan, but again, you always have to adapt within the nature and the dynamics of your class as well, of course. But that you have an anticipation of how you're going to do this, well, it actually helps quite a lot. And also to recognize that this balance that you need to strike between your talking time and your students' talking time is, well, actually vital to their learning process. Um, so, again, if you have a 60-minute class and you're talking most of the time, say a grammar topic, and in this grammar topic, it was mainly you talking and explaining all of the details. Well, this is fine, but you have to ask yourself, was this the best way to do this? And how was this beneficial to my students um, in the long run, in as part of their learning process? Are you there? Are your students there to be grammar experts? Or are they just there because they just want to go online and do some shopping? They want to go to San Diego, Las Vegas, or some other state and do some social interaction as they're living there, or they're enjoying being a tourist of sorts. So those are some of the things that you need to ask yourself as you're observing how you're using your voice in your English class with adults and how you're eliciting their voice as part of the learning process. These are tools that you can use and you can plan how to use them. And this is something that we want to start to get a look at here. Now, some practical applications, of course. Well, yes, we might be analyzing a bit more the teacher aspect of it, but in turn, the benefit of that is to maximize student practice. At the end of the day, the best way to learn a language is to practice the language. And a language is speaking. Yes, there are cognitive processes. There is reading, there is writing, there's vocabulary, there's many, many other things, but you have to speak, you have to talk. You got to get your students to speak and use the language. So the way that you do that through their quote unquote student talking time is quite important. The way that you do it, that you're intentional, strategic, purpose driven. Okay. And again, well, strategic use of your teacher talking time, of course. So we're going to get into all of those details. Now, your connection to your milestone, remember, just like we've been doing in unit 1, 2, and 3, in the same idea, for unit 4, you're going to have a milestone delivery, which is going to be 4.3. So go ahead and look out for that. You can go and advance and kind of see what all of that is about. But mainly here, we're talking about class management as a whole, right? So you can actually start identifying your class management from the lesson plan um, development, lesson by lesson. But here, your teacher talking time and your student talking time are in fact directly implement directly impact the dynamics of how your classes go about. Um, if it's a light-hearted class, if it's a slow class, right? If it's a highly social class, if it's teacher-centered, if it's student-centered, the way that you use the voice, your voice and your student voice, will greatly impact the dynamics and the feel of the class, along with your presence and how you move about. There's other factors, of course, but here we're focusing just on the voice. So, very important to take a look at the voice. I guess it's something we don't take a look at very often. So, I'm quite happy that we do so here because it is a very important tool to take a look at. And for you to plan for effective interactions. This is also important. As I was saying, you can plan from the lesson plan, you can anticipate how you'll be using. If you want to scribble it down alongside in some area of your lesson plan, or if you're thinking about it, you kind of see the lesson plan play out in your mind, and then as you're there in the class, then you just execute that idea that you have, but you have your lesson plan to fall back on as well. So there's many, many ways here. Those are just two very simple examples. Like I'm saying here, there really is no rocket science to this. It's really a quite direct topic that we have for this week, but it's a quite fascinating one, I believe, because it's something most teachers don't take a look at. And it's quite important, it's quite valuable if you come to think about it, using your voice to teach. And the way that you elicit the reactions of your students and how you get them to participate. And if you're actually overusing your voice, or maybe not using it enough, there's a right balance to strike here. And that's really what we want to start exploring. We're not going to get perhaps the definite answer at the end of the day for this week only, because it's just a week, but we're going to start that exploration. And that's really what this is about. So I just want to leave you here with two questions. How much do you speak? Well, I think we need to contextualize this question. How much do you speak in your classroom as a teacher? If you already have teacher experience, or if you're just thinking about it, if you're looking at other teachers, look at how much time, frame it within the 60-minute class, approximately. Is it 30 minutes? Is it 40 minutes? Is it being done in the right way, in a strategic and purposeful way? And how can you adjust for learning? How can you adjust the way you use your voice for the benefit of the learning process? Not for your benefit as a teacher of better explaining something, but for the benefit of the learning process of your students. Those are some really important questions to take a look at. Hopefully, you'll have them in mind as you progress throughout this week. And well, we'll see you as usual within the course content. If you have any questions, any further ideas or doubts or such, remember you can always drop me a line through Blackboard, or you can also email me. All right. See you there.